Arizona to Minnesota. We've got him on. He is our special correspondent. Before I get anywhere on Denver, I think it's amazing. I do think we suggested that he was a great pickup at the trade deadline because he's so smart. He can figure out an offense. And you know, Mark, trade deadline guys, sure, you need to play them right away, and some guys just can't move into a system. What do you make of his story?
Yeah. Oh, okay, first off, I got to go point of order with you, Colin. The correct quote is it's not you lose more than you win. More games are lost than won in the National Football League. Meaning you screw things up with some of the decisions and the game management. So more games are lost than won. Okay. I just want to clear that up, that Belichick quote. Okay, as far as Joshua Dobbs is concerned, what he's done the last 2 weeks, especially in week number 1, gets traded, shows up on Wednesday. By Sunday, he's got the call sheet memorized, but he certainly doesn't know the entirety of the offense, and he goes out and executes flawlessly. And open line of communications, I love this, and I talked to Kevin O'Connell last week about this. He goes, I don't want any of the credit, but I got to give him some love, and I got to give Joshua Dobbs some love. The kid is absolutely brilliant, understood the call sheet, but didn't know exactly what they were. So they were breaking the huddle with about 25 seconds left and then walking up to the line of scrimmage, talking about everything that they wanted to do, everything that he needed to know about this particular play as he was walking up to the line of scrimmage and then going out and executing it. And on the last touchdown pass, it was to Brandon Powell, the last touchdown pass in the first week against Atlanta. Kevin O'Connell says to him, hey, listen, when you break the huddle, when you snap the ball, I just want you to look to the right. Look to the right. That'll suck the underneath coverage up, and then we're running the whip route on the back, right? So we're running the whip route to Brandon Powell. So look to the right, then just turn and throw it. It'll be wide open, I promise you. So there he does. He snaps it, turns, looks to his right, bam, flips it over there, touchdown. The rest is history. Last week he had more of the offense, but it's amazing what these two are doing together. And as I said in the opening of the broadcast last week, I said, hey, if you turn this into Hollywood as a script, they reject it because it's unbelievable. This could never happen. That's how incredible what they're doing right now is in Minnesota.
You know, I said this. Relative to what they don't have an elite receiver, tight end, O-lineman. I like Javonte Williams. But I think Sean Payton, this is what coaching looks like. His number one job was not winning in his first year. It was saving Russell Wilson. And I got to be honest with you. I feel like about 80% of Russell I'm getting. He did a few laterals, made one or two big throws. But I kind of feel like you got to be honest about Sean Payton. We can all dump on him. But his number one job was to figure out Russell Wilson. You've seen every snap. I've seen most. I think this is what Russell is now. It's not top 5, but he's not the problem. I mean, what do you make of the growth? What do you make of Payton?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that Payton has impressed upon me is it's important to know your strengths, but it's more important to know your weaknesses and then to mitigate those potential weaknesses. And I think Payton really assessed what he has in Russell Wilson and the rest of this football team and said, okay, here's how we're going to win. We're going to try to run it with our running backs about 35 times a game. We're going to try to limit Russell Wilson to about 24 attempts a game. We're going to control the tempo of the game, the pace of the game, the time of possession. We want to win time of possession by about 10 minutes. Last night it was 37-23 in favor of the Broncos. And in doing that, we're going to put the other team under pressure. Here's what happens when you're not getting attempts with the football, when you're not getting possessions. The average game is about 12 possessions. If you possess the clock, that other sideline is going, hey, we're down to 11 possessions. Hey, 10 possessions. Hey, 9 possessions. Now to 8 possessions. We got to score every time. And what happens? You scrap pile your game plan and you just start throwing it around the football field, which leads to issues. Here's what ends up happening. Attempts in the running game lead to opportunities for your offense in the passing game. Possession of the football leads to pressure on the opponent, which leads to mistakes on the football field. And that's what they're doing. The last 2 weeks, they've turned the other team over 9 times. And you could sit there and say, well, it's dumb luck. Like they're just getting fortunate. I would argue that's complementary football, and they're creating those opportunities for themselves because they're putting the other offense behind the 8 ball, or the other offense scrap piles their game plan and starts playing hero ball. And if you want to know what, to me, Josh Allen's issues are, I went through every interception he threw this year so far, and to me, it's really arm arrogance. It's either being behind or feeling the pressure that you have to make a throw, and then you saying to yourself, I can throw it in any window. I can be late with the football. My timing of my feet don't have to time up with a route combination, and here I go. And ultimately, you don't put touch on the ball. You're a little bit late with the ball. You try to fit it into some, defensive back that's sloughing off into that deeper area, and instead of taking the check down. And that's just pure arm arrogance. And that's what's going on with that offense right now. And I completely agree, by the way, Colin, with what you talked about, having a strong personality, coaching strong personality players. You've got to.
Yeah, Shanahan with John Elway. You saw it. Big, strong personality with a big, strong personality. You have the Bears at the Lions this week, and you were on one of the great offensive lines. Those Washington teams, you were on Denver. Those were big boy offensive lines. I think the Lions match up with Philadelphia because they're O-line. I think they match up with Dallas because they're O-line. I think they match up with San Francisco because of their O-line. I think they match up with every AFC team. All because of that O-line. O-lines are like great pass rushes. They travel, right? You can take them anywhere. Weather doesn't affect them. Actually, I could say they're better in lousy weather because defensive players slip. Defensive rush ends slip. I like the Lions. You'll see them this week. Am I overstating how good they are?
No, I think they're getting elite level play from their quarterback. They're running the ball. You're 100% right about their O-line. They dominate the line of scrimmage. Which keeps them in every football game, even the ones where defensively they have a lapse and they don't play really well or they don't rush the passer up to their capabilities. Their offense and their offensive line and their ability to have duality in both being able to run the game and throw the ball, you're right, 100%. It travels. When I talk to Dan Campbell right there, Penei Sewell, he'll tell you that's the best football player on my football team, bar none, regardless of position. Penei Sewell is the best football player we have on our roster, and he happens to play offensive line. They have done a tremendous job, and I think they match up with just about anybody in the National Football League any given weekend. That's who they are. It's what they do. They want to win the physical battle. They want to win the grit battle. They want to win the toughness battle, and ultimately they do that pretty much week in and week out, and that's one of the reasons I love them. You talk about offensive lines traveling. You talk about just the commitment to being physical. Show me the most physical team in the National Football League, and I'll show you the team that wins almost every Sunday. Go back to last Sunday. You can go look at the stats. Every team that controlled the running game from attempts and yardage pretty much won. Cleveland beat Baltimore. Detroit beat, the Chargers. I mean, you can go through it every single game. Denver beats Buffalo. I mean, go through the roster last week. If you ran the ball, controlled the tempo of the game, controlled, the line of scrimmage, you won last week. That regardless of who your quarterback was, doesn't matter. And that's what people, that fantasy football to me has ruined the game because you think football is something that it's not. It's not about throwing it to receivers. It's not about getting guys open on the outside. It's not about all that stuff. It's about dominating a line of scrimmage. And when you do that, you win in the National Football League.
Finally, you just worked out. I work out after the show. I'm not going to get into mine. How much did you bench or leg press today? Give me a number. I just want to see compared to.
I can do pretty much whatever I want. I am an absolute unit, Colin. I might be this world's strongest human. No, I am. Like I do have freak level strength in the weight room. I always have. So. What's the average offensive lineman do at the NFL Combine on 225 bench test? You want to know that?
Yeah.
Average offensive lineman does 25 reps at 225. I like, without bragging, I did 30 and racked it, and it was easy. So I bet you I could do 40 at 57 years old.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? Yesterday I leg press. Buck 90. Boom! Yeah. Hey,
you know what? That's all power, baby. That is all power.
I'm a V6. At best, I'm an old V6.
You're a four banger with one cylinder out, Colin, but that's all right.
Good seeing you, buddy.
You too, bud.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.